The daughter of the fallen police officer tries to buy back her father's K9 dog.
Hello everyone, enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
A hero fallen for his ideals, a son of the people. That winter morning, Greenwood Cemetery was blanketed in a thick, pale mist, as if silently concealing the grief spreading through the hearts of those attending the funeral. Lucy stood in the front row, a gray shawl wrapped around her frail body. Her eyes were red not just from the cold, but from the deep, crushing pain in her chest. Her father, Inspector Alexander Walker, was gone forever. But to Lucy, those words of praise felt like a thin veil covering up an unbearable void. The media had shown up in droves. Cameras swung back and forth, filming the ceremony like it was a major national event. Words of admiration echoed everywhere. But Lucy felt nothing but disgust at how people were turning her father into a symbol, when no one truly cared about the man he was while he was alive. Beside Lucy sat her mother, Rose, motionless. She didn't cry, didn't speak. She just stared at the photo of her husband, her dull eyes like stone. It had been a month since she last slept well, ate properly, or said anything with real meaning. Lucy had tried making porridge, forced her to take medicine, even invited a psychologist home. But all she got in return was silence. When the ceremony ended, the luxury cars of government officials gradually departed. A few of her father's old colleagues, those who once called him Big Brother, gave her a few token pats on the shoulder, then quickly walked away. The last to leave was Ethan Whitaker, the former deputy team leader. Lucy grabbed his sleeve, trying to keep her voice steady. "Uncle Ethan. I wanted to ask about the fallen officer support the Department of the Interior promised. Do you know when that will?" Ethan avoided her gaze. It's probably still under review. Don't worry, it'll come through. But it's already been 3 months. He pressed his lips together and nodded like someone annoyed by being bothered. You know how it is. Bureaucracy, lots of red tape. Don't worry. It'll all work out. With that, he rushed to his car without looking back. Over the past 3 months, Lucy had sent a total of 12 emails, 3 petitions, and made more than 20 phone calls to the Department of the Interior. The only response she received was an automated message: "Your request has been received. Please wait while it is being processed." And then nothing. Just silence. A silence as long and cold as death. At school, people began keeping their distance. Some former friends now only nodded politely before hurrying off. In the schoolyard, she once overheard whispers, "Poor thing, but getting involved like that, better not draw attention, she's linked to that investigation." Lucy returned to the small apartment where she lived with her mother. Max, the service dog who had once been her father's partner, was no longer there. After her father's death, Max had been taken back to the unit and confined at an emergency training center. Lucy couldn't accept it. She held an old photo of her father and Max, taken just after they'd completed a major case. In the picture, her father was beaming, stroking Max's head like that of a child. She cleaned the frame, then looked over at her mother, who still sat silently like a statue. "Mom. I'm going to bring Max home. I promise." Her mother didn't respond. The following week, Lucy began her search for Max. Her first stop was the K9 unit headquarters on Walker Avenue. A woman named Ellen Garrett, in charge of the service dog records, met her with an icy expression. "You're Inspector Walker's daughter?" "Yes, ma'am. I came to ask if I could keep Max. I can guarantee he'll be well cared for, and I truly believe my father would have wanted that." Ellen raised her eyebrows, her voice impatient. "You do understand Max is police property, right? He can't just be kept like a pet." "But, he was my father's dog. They worked together for years. Rules are rules. If the handler is no longer active, the dog gets retrained or decommissioned. Please. I just want to care for him. I have work to do. Please leave." Lucy left, gripping the photo of her father and Max so tightly the corner tore. She then went to the Department of the Interior. This time, she was received by a middle-aged man named Frank Mitchell. He talked a lot, was very polite, and completely useless. "My dear, I'm truly sorry for what happened to your father. But keeping a service dog after the handler dies is a sensitive issue. I'm not asking for much. I just want to keep him. You should focus on your studies, and on taking care of your mother. Don't let the past mess up everything else." Max isn't the past. Frank sighed, stood up, shook her hand but didn't look her in the eye. "Wishing you all the best." Lucy broke down crying right there in front of the department building. Passers-by looked at her with pity, but no one stopped. She collapsed to the ground, cold wind cutting her cheeks. Her hands clutched the photo of her father and Max. What once were cherished memories now felt like a burden. A hand lightly touched her shoulder. A young security guard named Matthew spoke softly. "You want to keep Max?" Lucy looked up, tears still wet on her face. "Yes, why?" "I heard, he's going to be auctioned internally. Whoever pays, gets him. The unit needs funding, you understand." "Auctioned?" Matthew nodded, glancing around as if afraid someone might hear. "I don't know the details, but if you really want him, get the money ready. And fast." Lucy stood up, her heart pounding. She clenched her fists, eyes fixed on the distant city lights flickering in the cold mist. "No matter what, I will bring Max home." In a quiet room on the third floor of the NYPD headquarters, Raymond Sanders sat behind a large wooden desk, his eyes scanning a thick file. A man in his 50s, with neatly combed salt and pepper hair and a perfectly tailored gray suit, he looked more like a corporate executive than a police officer. His phone vibrated. Raymond picked up. "I'm listening." A voice on the other end said flatly, "The Walker girl is poking around. She was at the department this morning." Raymond smirked, his gaze icy. "Let her. She won't get anywhere. Everything's been wiped clean." He ended the call, poured more coffee, then swiveled his chair toward the window. New York City stretched out behind the glass like a perfect maze, where pawns like Lucy would never grasp the real game being played. On the desk was the thick file stamped in bold red letters, Operation Steel Fang, August 14, 2024. Raymond flipped to the first page. A photo of Alexander Walker smiling beside Max appeared beneath a banner reading, "Anti-drug, Duty and Honor." Raymond curled his lip. Duty and honor? How naive. That night, in her small apartment, Lucy lay face down on the bed, staring at the ceiling, her heart as heavy as stone. She had just sold her father's heirloom watch to scrape together more money. She reached for the USB drive her father had left behind in a drawer. She hadn't opened it. She was scared. But in her mind, the name Raymond Sanders kept echoing. The next day, she went to the archives room at the old precinct where her father used to work. She submitted her documents, stating the purpose as researching for her senior thesis. The staff member who received her was Daniel Irwin, elderly, but still smiling gently. "You're Lucy? Inspector Walker's daughter?" "Yes, sir." "Your dad used to sit right there," he pointed at a worn desk near the window. "He had a habit of jotting everything down in notebooks, but never let anyone see them. He didn't trust digital records." Lucy swallowed hard. "I want to find the records of his last mission. Operation Steel Fang." Daniel hesitated. "That's classified. No access without clearance." "I know. But can you at least tell me what really happened that day?" Daniel looked around, then pulled Lucy in closer. "Listen, that day, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond personally ordered the backup team to withdraw from the raid point. Everyone was shocked. Alexander was left alone to face Vaughn's crew. Alone. Why would they pull out? No one knows. It was a verbal order, no documentation. Later, in the internal report, Raymond said, the situation changed unexpectedly, a high-priority target needed protection. But we all knew what that target really was. Lucy clenched her fists. Nick Vaughn. Daniel gave a slight nod and whispered. Yes. A drug lord, but also a golden client to many powerful people. Lucy felt her heart freeze. Her father had sacrificed his life, had been abandoned to protect someone like Nick. Your dad had suspicions. A few days before, he asked me about some files related to Nick and Andrew Morrison. Andrew? A drug runner. He was once arrested, but then mysteriously released. Max bit his arm during a chase in Yonkers. Lucy remembered that name. Andrew was the one who had won the auction for Max. The connection was becoming clearer. And after that, Max was also decommissioned. Yes. Raymond personally signed the order to remove Max from the unit, citing behavioral instability rendering him unfit for duty. Ridiculous. Daniel quickly shut the file and glanced around again. You should be careful. You have no idea who you're up against. Lucy nodded and left, her heart burning. She opened her phone and typed in Raymond Sanders and Nick Vaughn. Nothing. Every article was clean, full of words like strategist and exemplary leader. She texted her old classmate, Irene Ross, who was now interning at the Chronicle. Lucy, Irene, can you help me look up some info on Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Sanders and Andrew Morrison? Irene, what's going on? Is it dangerous? Lucy, I just need to know if any articles about them were ever taken down. A moment later, Irene replied. Irene, there were 2 articles about Andrew published last year, one on illegal wildlife trade, one on violence. But both were deleted from the server. The journalist was Ryan Cooper. He left the paper reason unknown. Lucy sat in silence. The web of power was thick. She was just a college student, no influence, no backing. But she still had Max. And the truth. That afternoon, in a quiet office, Raymond received another call. Colonel, bad news. The girl seems to know more than we thought. Raymond sneered. Well then, let's see what a girl who hasn't even graduated can do. We have the courts, the media, the whole system. What does she have? A dog, sir. Raymond slammed his cup down. And a dog can't testify. He stood, walked to a metal cabinet, and pulled out a document, reassignment of use, Max, ID 4782. He signed and stamped it. Send him to Black Dog Kennels. We'll reprogram his memory. If he survives. At the same time, in her room, Lucy's hands trembled as she opened the USB drive. An audio recording played. Alexander Walker's voice, if you're hearing this, it probably means I'm gone. But don't let the truth be buried. Lucy clenched her fists, eyes on the ceiling, tears falling silently. I swear, Dad. I won't let them get away with this. 3 days later, drizzle covered New York. Lucy stepped out in her father's old coat, clutching a folder she'd prepared, Max's file, a petition to keep him, proof of family status. She knew every place she was about to visit would likely reject her, but she had to try. For Max. For her father. First stop, Brooklyn Heights Police Station, where Max had been processed for retraining. She entered, rain still dripping from her hair. Behind the front desk was a sharply made-up woman with short hair. Her name tag read, Madeline Snow. I need to speak to whoever's in charge of the K-9 unit. I'm here to request custody of a specific dog, Max, my father Inspector Walker's partner. Madeline looked her up and down, frowning. And you are? His daughter. Lucy Walker. I'm sorry, but you can't speak to anyone. That department doesn't deal with civilians. But I submitted a request 2 weeks ago. I'm only asking to keep Max. He's not a tool, he's family. Madeline sighed and pulled out her phone, pretending to make a call. Yes, there's a young woman causing a disturbance in the lobby. Yes, Walker's daughter. Okay, I'll tell her to leave. Lucy didn't wait. She turned and walked out, gripping her papers tightly. Outside, the rain was falling harder. She continued on to the Department of the Interior, this time to the Office of Assets and Liquidation. The building sat on Fifth Avenue, surrounded by luxury banks and designer shops, a world far removed from her reality. At the reception sat an elderly man with a silver beard named James Avery, who looked relatively kind. Lucy hoped she could reason with him. Hello, sir. My name is Lucy Walker. I'd like to ask about the procedure for keeping a police dog after the handler's death. You're referring to Max. My father was Inspector Alexander Walker. James looked up and sighed. Ah, that case. I know he's about to be sent elsewhere. I just want to keep him. I've prepared all the paperwork. I can sign financial and care agreements, everything. He shook his head, hesitating. The issue is, Max is no longer considered a pet eligible for return to family. He's been reclassified as transitional property. Property? He's a living being. He was my dad's partner. Calm down. I understand your feelings, but that's the regulation. And currently, Max is on the internal liquidation list. Lucy nearly screamed. Liquidation? Is that what you people do to everything? Even a loyal dog? Miss. No, don't say another word. She stood, voice shaking. I'll find another way. She left, walking in the pouring rain. Cars passed by, indifferent to the young woman with trembling hands clutching a stack of papers. Once again, New York didn't care. That night, Lucy sat blankly in the kitchen. Her mother still hadn't spoken. Her eyes were hollow, seemingly disconnected from the world. Lucy tried to talk. Mom. I went to every place I could. They won't let me keep Max. Silence. Do you remember when Dad told us about how Max saved him in that ambush in Trenton? Rose stirred slightly, but said nothing. Only the wind howled outside the window. Lucy collapsed onto the table, crying again. It was the third time that week. She was exhausted. But she couldn't stop. The next day, Lucy visited the New York Animal Protection Society. There, a young staff member named Sean Rivers met with her. He had gentle eyes and curly brown hair, just a few years older than her. You said you want to keep a police dog? Yes. Max. He was removed from service after my dad died. They're about to sell him like a piece of property. I don't know what else to do. Sean was thoughtful. Technically, we can't interfere with police-owned assets. But what? There's one option. If you can prove that Max is being mistreated or at risk of abuse, we can propose a suspension of the liquidation process. But we need evidence. Lucy nodded. I'll find it. Whatever it takes. Before she left, Sean handed her a business card. If anything urgent comes up, call me. I believe you. No one comes here crying over a dog unless they really love it. Lucy stepped outside, for the first time feeling a faint glimmer of light in the overwhelming darkness. That afternoon, as she was walking through Times Square, she heard someone call out. Lucy. She turned around. It was Claire Gibson, an old high school friend, now an intern at New York Pulse. Oh my God, it is you. Are you okay? You look rough. Lucy gave a faint smile. I'm fine. Just trying to save Max. The dog your dad worked with? Yeah. They're selling him to some guy named Andrew. Do you know that name? Claire froze. Andrew Morrison. He's an underground figure in the dog racing world. I saw his name in an old investigative report. Lucy grabbed her hand. Can you help me? Maybe do a small piece. Or even just a social media post. Claire hesitated. I'm not sure my editor would approve. But I'll try. Lucy nodded in gratitude. They parted quickly, but Lucy knew, people like Claire, Sean, Daniel, they were links in a chain. She would gather them one by one. Even a grain of sand can jam the gears. That night, Lucy was home when her phone rang. It was Sean. Lucy. I just got word that Max is scheduled for auction within a week. The location hasn't been announced. But they're giving preference to insiders. An auction? How much? Not sure. But if Andrew's involved, it could go up to tens of thousands of dollars. Lucy froze. I don't have that kind of money. I know. But you need to prepare something, money or evidence. Otherwise, you'll lose Max forever. She hung up, stepped onto the balcony. The rain had stopped, but the cold wind still cut into her skin. New York sparkled beneath her, flaunting its power while she remained just a flicker of light in a city that never looked back. Max, wait for me. Even if I have to give up everything. Lucy sat by the bed, the room wrapped in the dim yellow glow of the desk lamp. In front of her was a stack of small bills held together with rubber bands, part of it borrowed from friends, part scraped together from selling her laptop, her father's heirloom watch, and the tiny hardship grant from her university. Total, $3,842. She stared at the money, then looked up at the photo of her father on the nightstand. In it, he was kneeling beside Max, his eyes full of warmth and trust. I'll bring Max home, Dad, even if I have to sacrifice my pride. The next morning, Lucy put on a simple gray dress and a pair of black shoes with worn-out heels. She went to the location of the auction, a closed hall inside the Queen's K-9 unit headquarters. She arrived early, submitted her paperwork as required, and was handed bidder number 17. She quietly took a seat in the last row and looked around. The room was filled with well-dressed people, most of them underground collectors, representatives from private security firms, or those with connections to the authorities. Every glance toward Lucy was curious, just a young, frail girl sitting alone in a sea of suits. At exactly 10 a.m., the auction began. The moderator was Mr. Julian Reed, in charge of asset liquidation for the Department of the Interior. He stood at the wooden podium, speaking in an even tone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending today's internal auction. Our goal is to find suitable, new homes for the individuals no longer in active service. First lot, K9, R4782, named Max. An employee led Max into the center of the hall. He was chained, his muzzle tightly bound, his eyes alert but filled with fear. When he spotted Lucy, he flinched and tried to break free, his eyes lighting up. Lucy jumped to her feet. Max. Max let out a soft bark, but was immediately pulled back by the handler. Julian struck the gavel. Opening bid, $2,000. Who bids $2,000? Lucy raised her hand, voice trembling. I do, number 17. Excellent. Do I hear $2,500? Another hand rose from the front row. Lucy turned, heart pounding. It was Andrew Morrison, wearing a sea blue suit, hair slicked back, sunglasses still on indoors. 2,500, do I hear 3,000? Lucy bit her lip and raised her hand. I do. 3,000 for number 17. Do I hear 3,500? 4,000, Andrew said coolly. Lucy froze. She had only about $800 left. One more bid, and she would be out. Still, she raised her hand. I bid. 4,200. The entire room murmured. Andrew smirked, his voice dripping with contempt. 6,000. Lucy immediately raised her hand again. I'd like to offer a payment plan. The room erupted in laughter. A man in the back jeered. This is an internal auction, not a charity, sweetheart. Julian banged the gavel, his tone stern. Sorry, the rules don't allow payment plans. Please continue bidding seriously. Lucy glared at Andrew, her eyes ablaze. He slowly took off his sunglasses, looked straight at her, and smirked. I bid $10,000. Wire transfer, now. The gavel struck like a death knell. K9 Max is awarded to Mr. Andrew Morrison. Max thrashed, barking wildly, eyes locked on Lucy. He struggled against the leash, barking like he was calling her name. Lucy stood frozen, her legs refusing to move. A hand landed gently on her shoulder. It was Sean Rivers, from the Animal Protection Society, who had arrived after hearing the news. Lucy. I'm so sorry. No, this can't be happening. She approached Andrew, tears spilling from her eyes. Please. Please let me buy him back. I can pay in installments. I'll do anything. Andrew scoffed. You think this is a convenience store? This is an auction. I won. He's mine now. Max is not a commodity. To me, he's an investment. A profitable one. Lucy reached out instinctively, but security stopped her. She turned to Julian. Please, postpone this auction. I have proof this man was once investigated for animal abuse. Julian crossed his arms and shrugged. There's no official record of that. Please leave the premises unless you want to be escorted out. Sean gently tugged her arm. Lucy, let's go. This isn't a place for people with hearts. Max was dragged away, locked in a metal cage placed in a black truck. He kicked and barked himself hoarse, his eyes still on Lucy until the vehicle vanished. Lucy collapsed, knees hitting the ground, her whole body shaking in despair. Around her, the crowd quietly dispersed. No one spoke. No one looked at her. Only the faint, choked barking echoed in the distance. She turned to Sean. What will he do to Max? I'm not sure, but with someone like Andrew, anything is possible. Lucy buried her face in her hands. I lost. Sean placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered. Sometimes the battle isn't over, it just changes phases. Lucy said nothing. Her pain had surpassed the limit of tears. The black truck pulled out of the auction grounds just as the sky began to dim. Against the gray backdrop of New York, it moved coldly, leaving nothing behind but a trail of exhaust and the tightening pain in Lucy's chest. Max was trapped inside a steel cage at the back of the truck. A thick chain wrapped tightly around his neck. His muzzle was bound in a heavy cloth strap. His amber eyes blazed with anger and confusion. He let out strained growls, scratching the metal mesh with his paws, thrashing as if he understood that what lay ahead was darkness and what was behind was the one he longed to stay beside. Shut up, you filthy mutt, barked a burly man sitting beside the cage, kicking the steel bar. Max growled, unafraid, only clawing harder. In the front seat, Andrew Morrison sat with one leg propped up on the dashboard, a glass of whiskey in hand. He glanced at the dog in the rearview mirror and smirked. Keep howling. Howl till your voice disappears. Then I'll teach you how to obey. Driving was a bearded man named Eric Bennett, Andrew's chauffeur and bodyguard. Lighting a cigarette, he sneered. That dog bit you good back then, didn't it? Andrew rubbed his hand. Still got the scar. But now he's mine. I'll have him licking my boots every morning. They both burst out laughing. Back at the auction venue, Lucy still stood frozen, her tear-streaked eyes fixed in the direction the truck had gone. Beside her, Sean remained silent, unsure how to console her. Lucy whispered, like in a trance. Max looked at me, he recognized me, he was crying out for help. Sean gently replied. I know. I saw him struggle, he didn't want to leave you. Lucy suddenly turned, panic in her eyes. What will they do to him? Will they retrain him? Or kill him? I don't know. But I know Andrew doesn't keep dogs out of love. I can't let this happen. I can't. Lucy cried, nearly shouting. Sean put a hand on her shoulder. Take a break for now. Tomorrow we'll find out where Andrew is taking Max. I have some contacts in the training camp circles. Lucy nodded, trembling. She was exhausted to the bone, but her heart still pounded with fury and sorrow. That night, Lucy returned home. Her mother still sat by the window, her gaze vacant. Whether she understood what her daughter had just endured, Lucy didn't know. She took off her coat and walked over, kneeling by her side. Mom. I'm sorry. I couldn't bring Max back. Rose said nothing. Lucy held her mother's hand tightly. They dragged him away like a thing. Mom, they don't see him as a living being. No one spoke up. No one stood with us. Her mother didn't reply, nor did she pull her hand away. And in that silence, Lucy understood it was a quiet kind of solidarity. Enough to remind her she wasn't entirely alone. She collapsed onto the floor, her small shoulders trembling with muffled sobs. In her mind, the image of Max's eyes when he was dragged away haunted her, eyes full of despair and pleading, as if begging her to bring him back. The next morning, Lucy received a message from Sean. I know where Andrew took Max, call me. She immediately picked up the phone. Sean. Tell me. I have an old friend, Jacob Monroe. He used to work at a training camp called Black Dog Kennels. He confirmed he saw Andrew there last night, dropping off a K-9 unit. Black Dog Kennels. Where is that? In Trenton. About 70 kilometers from here. But Lucy, it's not a good place. It's an extreme training camp. Lucy frowned. What do you mean? They don't train dogs with treats or praise there. They use electric prods, starvation, coercion. The goal is to turn dogs into machines that will attack on command without needing a reason. Lucy went pale. Max won't survive that. I know. That's why we need to find a way to get him out. But how? I don't have legal rights. We need evidence. If we can film animal abuse, I can help push it to the media. If not, we'll need time. And guts. Lucy looked out the window. The sky over New York was gray again. She thought of her father. Of Max. Of everything that had been stolen from her. I don't care about the law anymore. I just want Max alive. I won't let my father's most loyal dog die in a steel cage. At Black Dog Kennels, Max was dragged into training cage number 7. His muzzle was strapped shut, legs tied with cloth. He curled up on the cold tile floor. Nearby, weak barks echoed from other dogs, most looking either dazed or frantic with fear. The head trainer, Paul Lawson, a bald, muscular man, approached and glanced at Max. This the one that bit Andrew? Yes. He wants it turned into a specialized attack dog. By any means necessary. Paul nodded. You'll learn to obey, pup. There's no friendship or loyalty here. He picked up an electric prod and lightly tapped Max's leg. The dog growled, eyes showing no fear. Paul laughed. You still remember someone, don't you? The way you're staring out the gate, must be the little girl, huh? A young staffer named Marcus stood nearby and whispered. This dog, it's not like the others. It looks at people differently. Paul snapped. You're new, so shut your mouth. Every dog is the same when it's starving and in pain. Marcus turned away, but his chest tightened. He had never seen a dog remain so conscious after being hauled in like a piece of cargo. Back in New York, Lucy wrote emails to every local paper, social media group, and animal rights organization. Every night, she replayed photos of her father and Max to remind herself not to give up. Sean came to her apartment carrying a map and a hidden camera. "I can't go into black dog kennels, but I know the layout. If you're willing to risk it, I'll help from the outside." Lucy grabbed the camera, her eyes firm. "I'm not risking it. I'm claiming justice." Black Dog Kennels sat in isolation on the outskirts of Trenton, surrounded by empty fields and dense pine forest. A 3-meter iron gate stood guard, lined with cameras. The rusted sign read, "Black Dog Kennels Animal Training Center." A name that sounded legitimate, but no one knew what truly happened inside. Andrew Morrison stood on the balcony of the management office, holding a glass of red wine, eyes fixed on the training yard below where Max was chained to a metal post in the sun. His thick coat was starting to mat with mud and sweat. Yet his eyes still shone, still stubborn, still unbroken. Paul Lawson approached to report. "He resisted again today. We've started behavior breaking protocol level 3. Andrew smirked. "Good. Use all the electric shocks, starvation, and isolation. I want him completely broken before reprogramming. But this one's different. He can distinguish familiar commands. He resists the conditioning software." Andrew turned, eyes icy. "Then we need to erase his past. When I walk in, he needs to lower his head. Know that I'm his master. I want him to attack whoever I point at, even Lucy, if necessary." Paul nodded. "There's one staff member, Marcus, who seems attached. He fed the dog last night." Andrew tightened his grip on the wine glass. "Fire him immediately. And tell him, this isn't a charity center. This is a battlefield. Work or get out." In cage number 7, Max lay curled up, breathing heavily. Next to him was an empty plastic bowl, no water since the night before. The flickering neon light above mocked him. Every time footsteps approached, Max would lift his head and stare. But it was never Lucy. It was never Lucy. Marcus, the young brown-haired employee, crept over, avoiding the cameras. In his hands were a stale sandwich and a bottle of water. "Shoo. I won't let you die of thirst, little guy." He unlocked the gate, slipped the food inside, and quickly left. His heart was heavy. Marcus had never believed that cruelty should be considered a standard method in dog training. In New York, Lucy was editing a clip her father had left behind. She increased the volume, adjusted the speed. In the recording, Alexander Walker's voice played calm but cautious. "Raymond is covering for individuals connected to Vaughn. Andrew is one of them. The deal took place in Yonkers. A shipment of dogs was sent out for fighting rings." Lucy shuddered. Her father had never spoken of this. Max had participated in a raid against illegal dog trafficking and now had fallen into the hands of one of those very people. The link was clear. Sean called. "I found a list of former employees who quit Black Dog Kennels. There are 3. One of them is Ryan Cooper. He used to be a journalist, went undercover, and was threatened out of the field. Will he talk? I've arranged to meet him at the Corner Brew tonight." Lucy nodded immediately. At the Corner Brew, Ryan Cooper sat in a shadowy corner. A man in his 40s with a beard, a long coat, and hands wrapped around a coffee mug. His eyes were alert, like a wild animal who had survived a chase. Lucy approached and spoke softly. "I'm Lucy Walker." He nodded. "Alexander's daughter. I knew him. One of the rare honest men in the field. I need the truth. I need to know what Andrew and Black Dog Kennels are really doing with the dogs they receive." Ryan let out a bitter laugh. "Do you know how many dogs were reprogrammed there? Over 70. Most were exported to foreign racing or illegal fighting groups afterward. Max won't become a beast like that. Max was once rated emotionally intelligent, able to differentiate between threat and trust. That type's nearly impossible to retrain. Andrew won't spare him. Lucy clenched her fists. Then what do I do? You need images. Audio. Evidence. Show all of America who Andrew and Raymond really are. Ryan pulled out a small memory card from his coat. This is footage I got before I left. But it's not enough. You'll need more. Lucy took it and bowed her head. I'll get the rest. For my father. And for Max. At Black Dog Kennels, Andrew entered the training cage. Paul nodded, signaling readiness. In his hand was the sound command device. An earpiece had been implanted into Max's ear. If Max didn't obey, he'd receive a mild electric shock through his collar. Begin. They released Max. In the yard stood only a rubber dummy dressed in a police uniform. Andrew gave the command. Attack. Max stood still. His eyes didn't leave Andrew, but he didn't move. Andrew pressed the button. A mild shock hit Max, and he collapsed slightly. But still, he didn't move. Attack. Again, an electric jolt. Max whimpered, but still didn't bite the dummy. Paul looked at Andrew, frowning. He was resisting the command. He was remembering the original orders from his previous handler. Andrew stepped forward and shouted. You're going to forget that girl. You belong to me. Attack, damn it. Max suddenly stood up and growled, for the first time showing a flash of pure rage in his eyes. He lunged at Andrew not because of a command, but out of hatred. Luckily, Paul managed to yank the chain back. Max was pulled away with a painful yelp. Marcus, watching from a distance, clenched his fists. He could no longer stay silent. That night, Marcus sneaked into Andrew's office and plugged in a USB. Lucy had left, the one containing the audio and video clips. He sent everything to the anonymous email address Sean had provided. In New York, Lucy launched the blog she had just created. There, she uploaded the footage, Max being shocked with electricity, his eyes screaming in the dark, the dummy thrown out as a training target. The caption read, "The dog who once saved an inspector's life is now being turned into a tool for revenge. Is this how we honor loyalty?" Hashtags, Justice for Max Johnson did not die in vain. Within hours, the clip went viral across social media. The Wildlife Advocate, a channel dedicated to animal rights, published an article. Black Dog Kennels, where heroes are turned into beasts. Lucy sat in front of her screen, hands trembling, heart pounding. She knew, the battle was about to begin. Rain poured over New York all night. Lucy's room was lit only by the dim yellow light of her desk lamp. She slumped over her laptop, the video of Max being electroshocked still playing. The image repeated over and over, stabbing deeper into her heart each time. Online, her post was spreading like wildfire. Thousands of comments. Hundreds of thousands of views. But Lucy felt no victory. Because amidst all the hashtags and outrage, Max was still locked up. Still being tortured. She hadn't eaten in 24 hours. Her coffee was cold. Her mother still sat by the window, silent. Thunder rumbled outside, echoing the storm inside Lucy's chest. Sean texted. "Lucy, people are watching. We have to keep pushing. I just got word, Andrew's finances are under surprise audit." She didn't reply. Irene, her old classmate, called. "Have you seen this morning's paper? Your story's on the front page under Investigative Report." Lucy's voice was hoarse. "What good is the press? Max is still locked up. My father is still lying cold underground. But at least, you're making people see. You're forcing them to admit they were wrong." Lucy gave a bitter laugh. No one admits anything. They just quietly erase the evidence and wait for the storm to pass. Irene was silent. Lucy hung up and walked to her desk drawer. She pulled out the old USB, her father's final keepsake. She had never listened to the full recording. Tonight, she decided she would. She plugged it into the laptop and opened the folder labeled Top Secret, Lucy. The first audio file was dated August 10th, 4 days before her father died. His voice came through deep and urgent. If you're listening to this, I may be gone. My daughter, I can't trust anyone. Not even people in my own unit. Raymond sold information to Vaughn. Andrew is just a pawn. I've recorded part of the data on this USB. The rest I hid in a special place. The place I used to take you as a child. Lucy sat upright. The place he used to take her. She racked her memory. The park? The library? The museum? The recording continued. Do you remember the path lined with bougainvillea next to the dog statue? We used to sit there for hours max at your feet, me reading the paper. There, under the stone bench, there's a small metal box. Lucy shot up as if struck by lightning. Prospect Park. The white stone dog statue she used to stroke for hours as a child. She grabbed her coat and ran out the door, ignoring the pouring rain. For the first time in weeks, her mother spoke softly. Where are you going? Lucy looked back, voice trembling. To find my father. And Max. An hour later, she reached Prospect Park. It was late, the park deserted. The streetlights cast an eerie glow on the dog statue, making it look dreamlike. Lucy ran to the familiar stone bench, where her father used to sit reading the New York Times while she ate strawberry ice cream. She knelt down, digging with her fingernails under the bench. The rain made the soil soft, icy, but she didn't care. Her fingers bled. And then they struck metal. A small iron box. She opened it. Inside was an SD card and a soggy slip of paper with smudged writing. If you found this, I believe you're strong enough to go on. Don't fear them. Truth is the strongest weapon. Lucy hugged the box to her chest and burst into tears in the rain. The next morning, she inserted the SD card into her laptop. There was only one video. The image was shaky and dim, but clearly captured a meeting between Raymond, Andrew, and another man, possibly one of Nick Vaughn's associates. In the video, Raymond said, Walker is suspicious. We need to get him off our backs. If necessary, make sure he dies in the field. Lucy could barely breathe. Releasing that video wouldn't just save Max, it would expose the buried crimes. However, when she sent the video to Irene for publication, her friend responded a few minutes later. Lucy, the story got blocked. Orders from above. The editor-in-chief won't touch anything involving Raymond. Lucy screamed. What do you mean? Everything is right there. Irene answered sadly. I can't publish it. But, you can. Lucy understood. She didn't need the press. She needed the people. She reopened her social media account and posted the video with the caption. This is why my father died. And why Max is being tortured. Help me share it before they take it down. Hashtags, Justicia para Walker Save Max. The video spread like wildfire. By the afternoon, activist groups, YouTube channels, and independent outlets joined in. A prominent journalist, Alexander Mina, reposted it with the comment. If this is real, the entire system owes the public an answer. But that same day, Lucy received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was low and icy. If you continue, what's left of your father will be dug up. And that dog will vanish off the map. Don't test our patience. Lucy trembled. But this time, she didn't hang up. She answered firmly. I'm not afraid anymore. If I have to die to bring Max home, I will. What about you? Are you afraid of the light of truth? That night, she returned home, completely exhausted. She sat on the floor and played her father's final recording. Lucy. I don't know if I'm still alive when you hear this. But if you still love Max, if you still believe in justice, then don't let the truth stay buried. Don't let men like Raymond live one more day. Lucy looked up at the ceiling, her voice breaking. I promise, Dad. Even if I'm alone. I will fight. Her mother, standing in the doorway, walked in. Rose embraced her daughter for the first time in what felt like forever. No words, just a tight hug that said, "You are not alone." In the dark room, the computer screen still glowed, casting light on Lucy's tired eyes, filled with unwavering resolve. 3 days after the video of the meeting between Raymond and Andrew was posted, tension at the Department of the Interior reached a breaking point. Reporters flooded the front gates, demanding confirmation only to be met with vague, evasive answers. But Lucy didn't sit and wait. She was ready for the next step, triggering the trap she had quietly prepared before the auction. Flashback to a few weeks earlier, the night before the auction. Lucy sat in Sean's small office. On the table lay the USB containing her father's recording. Sean frowned. Are you sure? If you go public too early, they'll have time to silence everything. Lucy shook her head, her eyes sharp with strategy. I won't go public. I'll send it to the only person my father ever trusted in the force. Who? Inspector Beatrice Caldwell. Beatrice had once been Alexander Walker's close colleague, known for being tough and incorruptible. After his death, she requested a transfer to a remote division. Though, pushed out of the big game, she still held influence if given enough evidence. Sean asked. Did you find her contact? I did. I'll send her the USB, no name attached. If she hears it, she'll know. Lucy was right. Beatrice received the USB 3 days later. She opened the audio recording in her private office. Her usually stern face shifted as she listened. She turned on her voice recorder. There are signs of criminal activity within the force. Raymond Sanders must be investigated. Keep it confidential. Ensure the protection of the indirect witness, Lucy Walker. She immediately called an old friend, veteran journalist Carl Langley. Carl, I've got a bombshell. But I need you to throw out the bait first. What kind of bait? Leak the idea that Inspector Walker's death might have been staged. But don't name names. Let them react first. Got it. The news spread like a tidal wave. The Voice of America ran the headline. Was Inspector Walker's death an accident? Internal sources hint at conflict in Operation Steel Fang. Lucy read the article, her heart pounding. She opened social media and saw the hashtag Justicia para Walker climbing to the top. Many who had known her father, neighbors, former colleagues, old classmates, left emotional comments. One read. I was once helped by Inspector Walker after being mugged on the subway. He was a good man. If he was betrayed, I want to know who did it. Lucy didn't sleep that night. She sat at her laptop, eyes determined, fingers typing non-stop. She was no longer a powerless student. She was now leading a true pursuit of justice. At the Department of the Interior, Raymond Sanders was furious. He slammed his fist on the desk, face red with rage. Who the hell let the media drag Walker's name back into this? His personal assistant, Luke Collins, tried to stay calm. The article doesn't mention you directly. But someone is reopening the Operation Steel Fang files. Useless fools. Raymond hissed. Don't you see? They're using that Walker girl to reconstruct the whole story. If Beatrice gets involved, we need to silence her before it's too late. Luke hesitated. But she's a known figure. Touching her will draw attention. Raymond's voice lowered, his eyes as cold as a snake's. I don't need to get my hands dirty. Give the job to Vaughn. He knows how to keep people quiet. Luke turned pale. You want to bring Nick Vaughn back into this? You think I have a way out? Raymond turned away, voice like a winter wind. Burn it all. The evidence, the witnesses, and that damn dog. At the same time, Andrew Morrison sat in his suburban mansion, looking over a folder handed to him by an industry contact. Notice of sudden financial audit, suspected money laundering and animal abuse. He scoffed. They think this is going to scare me. But the smirk didn't last. He immediately received an anonymous phone call. Max will undergo a medical exam. If any abuse-related injuries are found, you'll be prosecuted. Andrew slammed the phone down and roared. You bastards! Max is a dog. You're choosing a dog over me. His bodyguard, Eric Bennett, spoke up. What do we do, Mr. Andrew? Kill it. Now. Before it can talk. Eric hesitated. But, it's just a dog. I said kill it. Meanwhile, at Black Dog Kennels, Marcus, the young staffer who had secretly helped Max, received a warning from Sean. A text message read. Max is about to be terminated. The Interior Department wants to wrap this up before the storm hits. Marcus ran straight to training cage 7. Max was still curled up, eyes wide open, his body covered in injuries from days of abuse. I'm not letting you die, kid. I swear. Marcus opened the cage, wrapped Max in a blanket, and lifted him over his shoulder. He knew he had only minutes before someone noticed. He bolted out the back gate and jumped into a small truck driven by his girlfriend, Natalie Archer. Natalie worked for an animal rescue organization and was ready to risk everything for creatures who couldn't speak for themselves. Go! Marcus shouted. Drive to Sean's place. Hurry! The next morning, at the Rescue Veterinary Center in Syracuse, Lucy entered the emergency room. When the door opened, she saw Max lying on the table, and 4 drip connected, his body gaunt and frail. The veterinarian, Dr. Sarah Ross, looked at her gently. He's been starved and shows signs of bruising in multiple areas. But he's alive. And he still remembers you. Lucy walked over. Max raised his head. Their eyes met, and in that moment, every storm, every hatred, every hopeless night melted away. He let out a soft whimper and stretched his neck to lick her hand. Lucy broke down crying. It's me. I'm here, Max. The room fell silent. Sean, Natalie, Marcus, they all stood there, overwhelmed by the moment. A passing reporter captured the photo, the girl hugging her dog in a New York winter. That very image became the symbol of the entire justice campaign. Online, people began changing their profile pictures to that moment. The Independent Times ran the headline. This is no longer about animal abuse, it's a system that betrayed loyalty. At the New York National Police headquarters, a press conference was urgently convened. Behind the podium stood the American flag, and at the center was Inspector Beatrice Caldwell, dressed in her dark blue uniform, face stern but eyes burning with determination. In front of her were dozens of journalists, cameras, microphones. The flashbulbs popped in a constant storm. The atmosphere was suffocating. Beatrice took a deep breath and declared. We have gathered enough evidence to conclude, the death of Inspector Alexander Walker shows signs of being staged. The data he left behind, along with verified testimonies and original audio recordings, support this. The press room erupted. In addition, we have uncovered a ring exploiting police K-9 units to cover up illegal operations, led by Lieutenant Raymond Sanders and his external associate, Andrew Morrison. One reporter stood up. Inspector, is there any chance this is connected to drug lord Nick Vaughn? Beatrice answered without blinking. Yes. But we are not yet releasing the full list. Everything has been handed to the district attorney to initiate formal prosecution. Lucy watched the live broadcast from Sean's house. She sat beside Max, who was more alert now, though still covered in bandages. The loyal dog rested his head on her leg, occasionally nudging her hand as if to say, "We didn't give up." Beatrice looked directly into the camera. This is not just about a betrayed inspector. This is about loyalty denied. About a system that chose silence over justice. But today, that silence ends. At that same moment, at Andrew's suburban mansion, police sirens wailed outside. The door was kicked in. Before Andrew could react, he was subdued right there in the living room. He struggled, yelling. "You have no right. I'm a major donor to law enforcement." One of the inspectors replied sternly. "And now, you have the right to remain silent, Andrew Morrison. You are under arrest for animal cruelty, money laundering, and connection to the Vaughn drug operation." In Andrew's hand was still a half-full glass of red wine. He saw the camera recording everything. Realizing he couldn't deny it anymore, he screamed. "It was Sanders. He forced me. He ran everything." The officers only glanced at each other without replying. Just a few hours earlier, Raymond Sanders had also been arrested at his office. Handcuffed under the glare of flashing cameras and the shouts of reporters, Raymond only managed to say one final sentence. "You idiots, you don't even know who you're playing with." No one answered. The next day, Lucy received an official letter from the Department of Justice. She was invited to attend the internal hearing regarding Inspector Walker, where her father's honor would be formally restored. She wore a simple white blouse and brought with her an old photograph of her father standing next to Max, his hand resting on the dog's head with a look full of trust. At the hall, the presiding official announced. "Based on new evidence, we hereby declare that Inspector Alexander Walker died in the line of duty during a special operation and committed no professional misconduct. All commendations and financial benefits will be fully reinstated to the family." Lucy stood and bowed. She said nothing. But her eyes said everything. She had done it. Max sat beside her, calm and obedient, wearing a small red scarf around his neck, the new symbol of honorary K9. After the ceremony, reporters crowded in to interview Lucy. One asked, "You've been through so much. Do you hold any resentment?" Lucy looked straight into the camera, her voice steady. "I don't want revenge. I want the truth. For my father. For Max. For everyone who's been silenced by power." A week later, Lucy received a scholarship from the New York Humanitarian Law Foundation, a full grant awarded to students who dare to stand up for justice. In the award letter, they wrote, "We don't award scholarships based on grades. We award them for courage." Lucy held the letter and turned to Max. "You see? We're going to be lawyers." Max gave a soft bark, as if in agreement. Finally, at the memorial ceremony for K9's fallen in the line of duty held at Union Square, a special photograph was projected onto a giant screen, Lucy hugging Max in the middle of a New York winter. The event host was none other than journalist Carl Langley, who said with emotion, "There are dogs who cannot speak, yet they are more loyal than 1,000 promises. Max, today we honor you as a living symbol not just of bravery, but of the reminder that loyalty must also be protected." The entire square erupted into thunderous applause. Lucy sat in the front row, eyes brimming with tears. Max lifted his head high, his gaze fearless. He was no longer a symbol of pain, but proof of victory. After the ceremony, Lucy walked among the dispersing crowd. A young boy approached, holding a flyer with Max's photo. "Miss, is that really Max? The dog in the picture?" Lucy knelt down and smiled gently. "Yes. That's Max." "Was he scared?" "No. He just missed the one he loved. And he fought to come back." The boy bowed his head and gently stroked Max. The dog didn't bark, he simply wagged his tail softly. Lucy stood up, turning back to look at the square where her and Max's photo had been displayed. In that moment, she understood, even though she had lost her father, even though she had almost lost everything, she was no longer a fragile girl. She was someone who had rewritten justice through love and courage. The story of Lucy and Max shows us that justice is not created only by courts or power, but by the courage and persistence of ordinary people. When the system stays silent, a single voice firm and unwavering can ignite great change. Love and loyalty, whether from a human or a dog, deserve to be protected until the end. Sometimes, it is in the darkest despair that we find the strength to face and defeat the shadows.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.